Everybody, welcome back to Northernlion, Plays the Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. We lost, we won the last run and we lost the last one. 1 out of 2 ain't bad. You remember what Meatloaf said? We got 1 HP Judas, but, I mean, to be honest, 4164 WEVM. To be honest with you, I welcome any opportunity to play as Judas in this game, to have our DPS kind of sorted early on and merely have to deal with the machinations of glass canonicity, as Daniel would say. I was losing it yesterday. I don't. It's probably bad marketing to open a video of yours by promoting a video of somebody else's, but Daniel did a video of him trying to name as many of the original 100, like Gen 1 151 Pokemon as he could. And the video is, I was unbelievably entertained, which is kudos, you know, deserving in and of itself, but also, like, so torn on whether or not the man was exclusively trolling. Like, the video has such a heavy kind of, like, Da Vinci energy to it. I couldn't tell if it was a troll, or it's genuine, or perhaps the alternative is somewhere in between. Because I'm telling you, he was like... The most suspicious one for sure is when he sees Cubone and he types Cub2. But I do think that, you know, I mean, obviously you're going to be like, how naive are you? But I think that what's possible as the exception, like the reason that happened with a genuine sense is that he knew Cubone existed. But he thought this was the evolved form of Cubone, which might be called Cub2. But, I mean, look, I know you're like, if you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you. I'm just saying, some of the other ones, I mean, when he knows that Arbok is Cobra backwards, and then he spells it like, not Arbok, like A-R-B-O-K, but instead like A-R-B-O-A-K-O, and you're like, Arboko? Da Vinci? See what I mean? Anyway. I'm torn. Either way, it was funny. It doesn't really matter whether it's kayfabe or not. I think we need this. It's not as good as just being able to buy a Spirit Heart, but it has some merits of its own. There is a tinted rock there, but we gotta look at this a little more closely. Like, I think this is probably worth it. And then even if we don't get a bomb to get that other tinted rock, which we did, okay, well, we don't need to play that. We don't need to play the game of what if anymore. Now we have 16 cents as well. But we got 2 question marks in our shop. So I think this is a situation trying to make sure we have absolutely perfect Isaac play, because people are like, just banter. I don't watch for the Isaac content anymore. Then you make one mistake on video and people are like, get a load of this guy. But anyway, we don't need to go down that road. We're just heading down to the next floor. He ain't heavy, man. He's my brother, Austin Powers. Gold member. I apologize, it's a spoiler for the end of Gold member, really. Okay, so the arcade is trash. That's kind of something, unfortunately, we've sort of come to expect, is that every once in a while you're gonna walk into an arcade and seems like with increasing frequency, it is not going to be a blood bank sort of setup. This is instead, excuse me. Instead, it's gonna give you, you know, like a 3 Skull Monty. It's been, I wonder how long it's been since I said the phrase 3 Skull Monty. I feel like I say it regularly, but infrequently. You know what I mean? Like a dentist appointment. There's a routine to it, but it's not like you're going every month. Dude, you know what? So I was talking to Kate yesterday, and she was telling me, Kate, you know, she moved to Canada from South Korea with her parents when she was like 11, 10 or 11, I think. Did you know, again, this is according to her, so if people are watching this and they have different experiences, like, you know, I'm not saying this is universal, is what I'm trying to say. And it's also secondhand knowledge, but Kate was telling me, like, in South Korea, when your baby teeth get loose, you actually go to the dentist and, like, the dentist pulls them out. Now, initially, I think there's almost like a little... I don't know what the word for it would be, like bravado. You're like, oh, you don't need to do that. Just wait for it to fall out or whatever, and, you know, it's totally fine. And you're like, yeah, I mean, that's the way, like, you know, it worked when I was growing up. Your baby teeth would get a little loose, and then they would wiggle, and then you would start poking the tooth with your tongue a little bit, and then before you know it, it's like, pops out of your mouth, right? But why shouldn't you go to a dentist to have a dentist just, like, yank it out cleanly with no risk of, like, because, like, here's what I'm getting at. I'm not saying it's actually, like, dangerous to have your tooth, like, your baby teeth come out naturally. But I just, you know, you'd be in, like, 4th grade. No. You'd be in, like, 4th grade, and kids would just go, like, ugh, and then, you know, you'd look over, and they got slobbery hands, and one of their teeth just popped out, right? It just seems kind of like... it doesn't seem like something that should be happening with modern medical standards, you know? Okay, we don't get to have a deal with the devil here, despite the fact that I earned one, because instead we had to fight a tiny fistula on a tiny room, but that's okay. Again, I'm not saying, like, oh, people are, you know, dropping dead on the regular because of the fact that they have to, you know, oh, my baby tooth fell out and then it got infected and now I got no mouth, you know? I'm just saying, it seems like a job that's, like, pretty... I don't know, maybe dentists here would be like, stop wasting my time. I really just wanted a single key. Could perhaps I... Oh, we're so close. That's almost the key. We might lose this run. We've gotten very, very little survivability out of it. I hope we don't, obviously, but it could happen. Damage is obviously, like, pretty good, even though we've also gotten only a Tears upgrade. A good one, admittedly, but still. Just seems weird to me that, you know, over in South Korea, they're, you know, when your teeth get loose, and let's not, you know, make it misrepresented. When your baby teeth get loose, you go to the dentist, and somebody whose whole job it is to deal with your dental health, takes care of it for you. Whereas in Canada, you just kind of use your tongue to push it out of your mouth until it clatters around on your desk. Anyway, I'm just saying. I will say, so, like, you know, I'm a fan of the Canadian medical system. I can be a fan of the medical system in my country without, you know, it becoming political. Like, I know, okay, so hold on. I almost went in a little too hard. I was like, you know, like, it exists to treat Canadians and their health, not exclusively to serve as, like, a counterpoint example for Americans to make their political agenda known, you know? Like, we're also, like, it's not just, like, you go to the doctor up here and it's just, like, you know, like a Wizard of Oz sort of thing where, like, you know, there's nobody in the hospital. It's just like it's just a mirage, and then it exists exclusively to, you know, provide fodder for arguments south of the border. There's, like, a real, like, industry and stuff here, right? So I'm a fan of the Canadian medical system, but I was, like, stunned in South Korea how good it was as well. Not that I expected it to be bad, but, like, you know, there's an anecdote that I remembered where, like, somebody, and this is not, like, related to me, I saw this on Twitter, but, somebody had to go to the hospital in South Korea, and the doctor was like, hey, just so you know, because you're, like, a tourist here, you have to pay full price for this, appointment, and, you know, like, you don't have insurance or anything like that, and she was like, yeah, that's fine, how much is it gonna cost? And they were like, $12. Which is, That is in keeping with my experience as well. Like, when I landed, it's like I don't know, I shouldn't say that it's mandatory, but through our school we had to pick up health insurance, and they were like, okay, are you ready to pay for the health insurance? And I was like, yeah, it's probably, like, pretty expensive. And they're like, no, it's like $40 a year or something like that. Maybe like $100 a year. And I was like, man, that's pretty sweet. Anyway, I did have to go to the doctor a couple times in South Korea. I had stomach pain, and I was convinced that I was, like, you know, gonna die, or at least, you know, that I would have, like, I don't know, pancreatitis or ulcerative colitis or something like that. And then the doctor, who, by the way, spoke perfect English, which just is very accommodating, but also makes the patient feel like kind of like a piece of garbage. Is like, I was procrastinating on going to the doctor because I thought it would be like an ordeal, and he's just like, hello, welcome. What bothers you today? Anyway. Hold on. I'm gonna blow this up. Just being a little coy here, because we don't really know, how our survivability is gonna play out. Like, we could take a deal with the devil. We'd really like a survivable deal with the devil. Like, if we can get a deal with the devil that gives us a respawn, for example. But anyway, he was like, what's your diet like? And I was like, oh, well, mostly, you know, I don't really know anybody here. So, like, occasionally, maybe like 5 times a week, I go out for Korean barbecue, which is literally just like meat cooked over an open flame. And then probably, like, drink way too much of the cheapest beer that you can possibly buy, and then I wake up on Saturday mornings and eat instant ramen because it's one of the only foods I recognize from the convenience store. And I mean, I ate some exotic stuff in Korea as well. I'm just saying, you know, I'm playing it up a little bit for the bit. He was like, yeah, I think maybe that's why you got like some stomach pain. And then, you know, you start eating a little bit more vegetable content, and wouldn't you know it, everything sort of started to come together. It turns out I was completely fine. I'm sorry, Doc. I'm gonna need a second opinion. I'd like to see Dr. Ronald McDonald, please. Okay, so we gotta deal with the devil. We gotta be a little careful. This is not a deal where we can really go on it unless we get a spirit heart, like right there, or maybe this is health up, but even then, I'm not willing to risk it for a theme, I think. So we'll hold Monkey Paw. Here's the thing. Could we have managed to take a theme? Yes. The greater question, and I think we're just going to leave even without taking Taurus, which I genuinely think is kind of a bad item in a lot of circumstances. But we could have probably, especially with Monkey Paw, managed to take a theme, but I just don't think it's the kind of item you want to take on unnecessary amounts of risk for, right? You know, we'd rather stay... I mean, if it was an incredible game-winning item by itself, sure. If it's just an item that's pretty good, nah. No need to get that tricky with it. Anyway. It's expensive to go to the dentist here, there's no doubt about that. You know, I would like to think that a dentist, you know, if they pulled your baby tooth in Canada, they wouldn't charge you more than like 30 or 40 bucks for it, but I don't know if that's actually true. That's what I would like to think. I think it depends on the dentist. Like, we're switching dentists, and I feel bad saying it, because, like, we actually have an awesome dentist, but we also, like, we always make our appointments on Saturday because it's our day off, and then we, you know, like, he's 35 minutes across town or something like that, right? Which, depending on where you live, might not seem that crazy, like to have to drive 30 minutes to, like, go to the dentist once every 6 months. But, like, we live in a major metropolitan area where we could probably walk to, like, 15 dentist's office, right? So, like, one of the reasons that you pay a premium to live in a city is for the convenience factor. If you're nullifying that to drive 30 minutes across town for things that you could just, you know, handle close to home, it's a little, it starts to not make sense, I guess is what I'm trying to say. By the way, we're gonna take at least a couple of those. Normally I would get 9 volt there. We might go back for more later, but 9 volt with our current spacebar item is not that impressive. So I feel bad, like, switching dentists, because our dentist actually has done nothing wrong except, like, be in the wrong part of town. And then, like, it was fine. Most of the time, you're like, because, you know, you're driving out to an area that has, like, oh, man, there's, like, different cuisine out here. We can get, like, some really awesome Korean food while we're out here. It's kind of like a ritual, right? It wasn't so bad, even while I was stuck in traffic, like, 30-minute drive across town, depending on what's happening on the Saturday, can easily become 45 minutes. But, you know, not a big deal in the whole scheme of things. But now that we have the baby and we're like, you know, if both of us go to the dentist appointment at the same day, which we usually do, we also got to take the baby in the car, and then one of us got to sit in the car with the baby, and, you know, you're like changing diapers in the car, and you know, you're like, man, it would just be a lot easier if we could just make an appointment that we could both, like, walk to, and then the other person could just stay at home with the baby, you know, and then we'll just, like, tag team the appointment, right? Anyway, but one of the reasons I'm a little disappointed to be leaving this dentist is because this dentist for sure thinks that we are broke, which is actually an extreme competitive advantage. It's been awesome. Now, I'll admit this might just... And I trust dentists in Canada. You know, I'm not saying all dentists are, you know, completely ethical, non-sales motivated, etc., etc. But I've never had a problem with this guy. He's always seemed very genuine to me. And the rates that we've been charged have always seemed quite reasonable. But maybe he's pulled the wool over my eyes. It obviously did not work as he is about to lose a customer. However... if you really wanted to pull the wool over my eyes, you would just merely pack up your entire office and move, you know, close to my home. Every time we, like, get billed for dental work, he would always be like, and I took a little bit off the top for you guys, because I know, like, you just had a baby. And I'm like, that's sick. Work is going as well as it's ever gone, actually. But you don't need to know that. It's not like he's being underpaid. It's not like we go in for like 2 cleanings that are supposed to be $200 each, and he's like, you know, I'm gonna give it to you for like, just give me $10 for both. We'll call it even. But still, I'm like, you know, it's a pretty sweet deal, to be honest. But anyway, that's my thoughts on dental care. I guess this is a little political, but here's the thing. The rest of the world already thinks we get our dental care for free. We might as well, in Canada, just roll it into the medical services plan, right? OHIP or whatever your province calls it. Because, like, it just seems like, to me, I always have to defend the fact that they're like, yeah, of course you go to the dentist all the time. The dentist is free there. And I'm like, nah, man, we're paying, like, out of pocket. Might as well just roll it in. Now, I'm not worried really about the fiduciary aspect of it at all, I'll admit. Can't they just print more money? I guess you wouldn't not take it. It's just, It also strikes me as one of those... I don't know, man. Like, with dental care, isn't that one of those things where, like, an ounce of prevention is worth, like, 100 pounds of cure? I apologize if it's kind of a sensitive topic for some people, but, like, I thought dental care was one of those things where, yeah, you've got, like, a lot of responsibility for it at home. You gotta brush your teeth. Ideally, you should probably floss and, you know, brush your tongue and, you know, use a water pick or something like that. But, you know, people don't sometimes, and they maybe, you know, drink a little too much soda or something like that, or they you know, suck on, like, sour candies too much, and their dental health suffers as a result. But I always thought it was one of those things where, like... And obviously, like, the genetics of your dental health play, like, a real role as well. Like, I don't have nice teeth in the sense, like, they're straight and even. You know, there's a lot of crowding, and, you know, they're kind of jagged, I guess. But, you know, in terms of the actual, like, structural integrity, they're built like a brick you-know-what. It's almost impossible for... If the lifestyle I lived in college could not give me, like, more than 2 cavities, I'm pretty sure that I'm good to go for a bit. But I thought it was also one of those things where it was like, I'm gonna go for it, dude. I'm gonna go for it. It was probably worth it. Where, like, you know, if you go to a dental appointment, let's not even say once every 6 months. I'm not a doctor, by the way, or a dentist for that matter, so be careful how much you read into this, I guess. But I thought, you know, because you're supposed to go to the dentist every 6 months, you know, even if you go, like, once a year, and you could, like, get ahead of some of the problems that cause, like, catastrophic issues if you don't go to the dentist, I feel like that would save people, like, a staggering amount of money over time. You know what I mean? I feel like anytime I hear a story that's like, I went to the dentist and, you know, I have to have, like, 17 root canals done. it's gonna cost me $13,000, and I need to have like 3 teeth crowned or capped or something like that. My initial reaction, of course there's a little, I guess it's kind of like a little ill-mannered smarm that is like, oh, what did you do to your teeth to deserve that? But that's kind of like, just rude. Like, I can totally understand why somebody wouldn't go to the dentist. Like, it's expensive, man. Especially, like, I'm thinking about it now. So, like, for Kate and I to go to the dentist, it's probably like $300, maybe like $350 Canadian. And that's, you know, examination, x-rays, cleaning, scaling, which is, I guess, just another form of cleaning. We pay a little extra so that they get the super sharp hooks that they dig into your gums just to feel alive. You know, the fluoride and the whatever, right? And then if you add in, like, another... You know, like, because we have a kid, you know, she doesn't have any teeth yet, but soon, you're like, man, it's gonna cost, like easily into the 4 figures annually, just for routine dental work for the family, and then, you know, that's not even counting, you know, if she needs braces or something, which is, you know, highly likely, because, Kate had braces, and also I probably should have had braces, but I think my parents were just not in a financial position at the time to really... afforded. So instead I had like a weird procedure done where like they used a super powered like pressure washer to kind of like shave a little part of the teeth off to try to reduce the crowding. I don't know, man. I wasn't really privy to the decisions being made back then. But either way, you know, it's expensive. So, you know, there's an element that's like, you know, well, if you didn't drink so much soda, then you wouldn't have had this problem. But I'm like, we don't really treat people like in the healthcare system like that, you know? Like if somebody falls down the stairs, I mean, I guess it's a little different than a habit, but you know, if somebody like is a, I don't know, man, maybe that's complicated. You know, if somebody's lived an unhealthy lifestyle, most Canadians are not like, I don't want my tax dollars going to pay for their, like, you know, MRIs or something like that. Most Canadians accept it as kind of like the, you know, it's the social contract up here. But when it comes to dental work, there's like a little bit of a difference. Anyway, we don't really need to get in. I'm just saying. Now it is, you know, if you could only choose to have one, medical or dental, you'd probably, well, I don't know, when you're young, you'd probably choose dental, right? I feel like the average person like under the age of 25 is definitely going to get more value out of like a dental plan than a medical insurance plan. But not everybody. Not everybody. See, these are the kind of discussions we get into when they don't give us a deal with the devil on the 2nd floor. And instead we got to wait till the 3rd floor. I'm happy though. This one came together. There was a time where it appeared like this might be a loss for us, but that's not the case. I have like my family has a very weird dental history, I think. But I also think that a lot of people are kind of weird dentally, if that makes sense. So let me tell you, my mom, very dentally normal, you know? She spearheaded going to the dentist all the time, you know? And I probably have her to thank for, you know, setting up that habit as a youngster. Her dad, i.e. my maternal grandfather, the grandfather on my mom's side, he went to the dentist, but he was scared of needles. So, and this is insane, for the record. If anybody's like, finally, someone else like me, get over, like, I know that sounds, get over your forehead, but like, I promise you that you're costing yourself way, way, way more. But he was afraid of needles, so he would get dental work done, which I do give him some credit for. And I'm talking like all dental work. He would get anything done, cavities filled, teeth pulled, etc., but never get any freezing, which is just insane. It's like that. It was like what they were doing in like the Crimean War and stuff like that. You know, I don't know if I've ever heard I mean, there's probably people out there who will muse, let's say they'll muse, that the needle hurts more than the procedure. I promise you that's not the case. As somebody who had his wisdom teeth pulled, but it took too long and a little bit of the freezing started to wear off, the procedure hurts more by like an enormous factor than the freezing hurts. That's why they invented the freezing. Anyway. My dad, his teeth are fine, but he was one of those guys who was like, I'm too busy to go to the dentist. Sounds familiar. Oh, I can't change my YouTube banner. I gotta make YouTube videos, right? What I'm saying is I'm blameless for everything. It all passes upwards. It's like when you watch I, Tonya, right? You're like, oh, I used to judge Tonya Harding, but now I realize that she had a kind of a crappy mom. Then you gotta watch the movie about Tonya Harding's mom, and you're like, wow, she had a crappy mom. And then you're like, it's crappy moms all the way down. Not that my parents were crappy, they were actually very good. But, all I'm saying is, and if you ever want to blame me for anything, it's never my fault. But my dad, like, he didn't go to the dentist for, like, the first 10 or 12 years of my life. And then naturally, like, he brushed his teeth. He didn't have, like, a soda or a candy habit or anything like that. But when he went to the dentist, they were like, yeah, you need, like, 8 cavities filled. My man's just been living with the cavities for, like, I don't know, like, on and off for a decade, I guess, or in different frequency for a decade. I don't really know what it was all about. I don't know what you get from that. Anyway, he was working hard. I'm not going to deny that. And I will say in my hometown, I don't know if any dentists were open on Saturday, you know? I think that's kind of like a big city privilege. Saturday dentists? Ooh la la. Next you're going to tell me the shopping mall's open on a Sunday. I think it is. I think it is. Anyway. Just waiting, you know, like, we got a 92% chance of a deal with the devil on this, well, of a deal of some sort on this floor. It's a number you don't see too much. Usually it tends to just go to 100. So I don't know, maybe we have like we have the 2/3 chance or a 72% chance, but then one of our items must augment the chance, I suppose. We really could use a little, the run is fine, and it's gonna win, and it's probably gonna win easily. Pardon me. But we really could use just something to kind of like make it happen. You know what I mean? It's like if you got a company and you know it's gonna, like, this company's, they got a great product, you know, you could take their time, or you could put them into like some kind of accelerator or something like that, and you know, who knows what they could do with just a little bit of brimstone. Sure, why not? Alright. But yeah, this debate, maybe I got hit from behind there. Phrasing? Dude, speaking of illegal body checks, NHL season starting soon. I tweeted last night that I think I've become a Brooklyn Nets fan. How did this happen? I put it in the hands of the universe. I turned on the television, like, I don't know, 5 nights ago, and the Nets were playing the Washington Wizards. I found the game exciting. The Nets did lose, but I was like, I like the way they're playing, you know? Plus, I think they got kind of like some slick branding. Then I went to Twitch because I was like exporting some VODs, and it was like, yo, Nets, like, it was twitch.tv/NBA or something like that. I'll do this. I'm not going any further than that. And it was like, you know, Nets versus 76ers are at halftime right now, and I was like, yo, I can watch the rest of the game while I'm exporting my videos. That's cool. And then the time started to tick down, and it was like, it's the 3rd quarter, but they weren't playing any basketball. And I realized, and this is not a joke, that twitch.tv/NBA doesn't play NBA games. They just put the scores and the clock of an NBA game on the screen. Why? Like, I just, like, I am a fan of sports. I watch hockey. I would never just, I mean, if you had options, I would just never keep like a live scoreboard with no actual video feed available? Like it seems so antiquated. It's like, you know, when I was a kid, we didn't have cable until I was, I don't know, maybe like 11 or 12. So when and this is genuine, I was a fan of the Montreal Canadiens. Every morning, I would read the newspaper and go to the sports section, and then like look at the box score for how the Canadians did in their game the previous night. I know it sounds like it's from the 1930s. I promise you that's not the case. I didn't turn on an old-timey radio in order to listen to the games. I just, you know, I got it out of the newspaper, like pre-cable for us at least, and pre-internet as well. But still, having just like a live scoreboard up is just very weird to me. But it had like 13,000 viewers, and people were subscribing to the scoreboard. And I'm like, don't subscribe to the scoreboard, man. Subscribe to me. Or anybody who's like they're not providing you with any. If you come into my streams and you go, hey, what's the score of the Brooklyn Nets game? I'll tell you, if you're gonna subscribe anyway. You know, I mean, I guess I don't own the rights to disseminate that information, but I don't think anyone's gonna get on your case for it. Either way, you don't need a right to disseminate information, maybe. I don't know, but isn't there something like in the Premier League? Like, you have to buy the rights from the Premier League in order to display the scores? That seems crazy to me, man. Like, in order to broadcast the games or sell merchandise using their logo, you know, of course. But in order to broadcast the scores? Like, that's insane. You know, I guess English football's not making that much money these days. They need another revenue stream. Hey, you stay in your lane, Eggman. Oh, I'll stay in my lane. The NHL. Dude, the NHL, so it starts up in like 5 days. Gonna be a weird season, of course. Mostly because there's gonna be helmet sponsorships now. The NHL has held out for so long. I'm proud to announce that the Vancouver Canucks helmet sponsor is, so their logo will be displayed on the helmets of the team every game, is Rogers, which is pretty sweet. So now the Vancouver Canucks play at Rogers Arena. The helmet sponsor is Rogers. It's time for the Rogers Play of the Game. The hot dogs brought to you by Rogers, the Ted Rogers Foundation for Greatness. It's the Rogers 50/50 presented by Rogers Arena at Rogers. Every stadium in Canada at this point is called the Rogers Arena or Rogers Stadium. Like, I'm not gonna lament it. Like, it's not that big of a deal in the whole scheme of things, right? But oh, fancy seeing you here. The Vancouver Canucks Arena, in the 90s, it was called Pacific Coliseum. That's a cool name, right? The building is old, so they built one, a new one, the one they're still using, called GM Place in like 2000. So it was General Motors Place. You know, it's not like that's any less or any cooler than Rogers Arena. But now, like, it got bought out, or the naming rights were sold to Rogers, which is like a Canadian telecom company. I don't know, maybe in like the mid-2000s. And then, since then, like, every other Canadian arena is named Rogers something. Like, there's no personality now. The Vancouver Canucks play at Rogers Arena. What do the Edmonton Oilers play at? Rogers Place. At least, you know, I go in on Calgary sometimes. At least, and it's because the arena is shaped like a saddle, but at least their arena is called the Scotiabank Saddle Dome. You know? It's not just, like, Rogers Arena is a pretty bad name. Rogers Place is, like, way worse. Why don't they just call it Rogers Noun? You know? And then you're like, I mean, you're never going to get confused because they're like thousands of kilometers apart. But, you know, like the Sky Dome in Toronto, where the Toronto Blue Jays play, is like, now it's called, like, you know, the Rogers Dome or something like that. And you're like, oh yeah, we went to Rogers to watch the game. And you're like, can you be more specific? Did you mean, it's like when you Wikipedia something and they're like, you know, you Wikipedia Smith. Did you mean Smith, a common last name? Smithing, the job of creating something. Did you mean Mr. and Mrs. Smith, a 2005 action comedy film starring Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie? Did you mean Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, the 1937 film about, you know, you can't stand up to City Hall? Did you mean, you know, it's just... Did you mean Rogers Arena in Vancouver? Did you mean the Rogers Dome? Did you mean the Scotiabank Air Canada Center? You get the idea. I'm not like a marketing guy in that sense. But I know I've gone off on this. We're pivoting off of sports to some extent. But do you ever get the idea that, like, I believe that marketing works. I really do. I would never, I probably have said this because I've been talking for a long time in my life, but I don't believe that, like, marketing as an industry is built on lies, you know, except for lying to the consumer. And I think that there's some marketing that works, like, extremely well. Now, do I think, like, commercials really work that much? No, not necessarily. It's like TV commercials and especially, like, internet advertisements, which I get I'm biting the hand that feeds, but I'm just kind of skeptical of their efficacy. And honestly, the rates that you get for them kind of proves that other people also are kind of coming to this conclusion, I think, in increasing numbers. But I think, like, you know, there are effective, like, everything's marketing, right? Like, the design of the product is marketing. Like, I can't say that marketing doesn't work, and then also, like, look at the success of Apple products over the last, you know, 15 years, and be like, you know, it's not just the commercials when I say marketing, it's, you know, the shape of that Gen 1 iPod, and, you know, everybody wearing AirPods on every single Zoom interview you see, and so on and so forth, right? Like, marketing, of course it has an effect. But I always wonder, like, whenever I see, like, hey, Citibank is going to pay $88 million for, you know, they're going to get the field at the University of Miami, Ohio, named after them. And you're like, $88 million? I don't know. I mean, I guess this is not because it's like name recognition and like brand awareness, I suppose. But surely the amount of business they actually generate as a result of the naming rights has got to be like, it's got to pale in comparison to the price, right? I don't know if I've ever heard a human being on Earth be like, I'm gonna switch banks now that they sponsor the stadium. It's madness, man. It's insane. But I guess, you know, if you're watching sports, you know, you're 20 years old, you're thinking about who you're going to bank with, the first thing you might Google if you watched a lot of University of Miami at Ohio football is Citibank, right? Maybe that's the way it works. I do caution you, because I've brought up this, like, marketing stuff before. Occasionally people are like, they wouldn't do it if it didn't work. And you gotta, dude, people do things in business that don't work, like, all the time. You remember Google Glass? It worked so badly, people still think it's coming. They didn't even cancel it properly. Apologies to the Alphabet Corporation. I know, you know, I'm making this video on your platform. I mean, even you would admit that it didn't. And Google Plus, and, you know, etc., etc. People spend, you know, companies will spend billions of dollars on things that are not cost effective constantly. You know, they're like a mining company, and then they purchase, like, a company that makes MP3 players, and then, you know, they bought it for $172 million, and then they shutter it like 2 years later. It happens all the time. You know, we got to examine the actual data. Now, mind you, I have not examined the actual data here. I'm cautioning against what I consider to be the fallacy of, like, well, they're doing it, so it must work. I don't know. Does anybody here? Is anybody here the CMO of Citibank? That's not fair. I don't think you need to be the CMO of Citibank to have insight on this. But I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts. Mostly, like, don't take this the wrong way, but like mostly if you work in the field of marketing, not if you just like have an opinion. That's not meant to be like, you know, I don't want to hear from you, but it's like I want to hear from you, but only about things that you're an expert in. Like if you're an expert in spot welding, you just wait for the spotlight to turn to you. One day I'm going to do a video, it's inevitable just due to the law of large numbers, where I'm going to be like, I don't really get spot welding, and you're going to be like, this is my moment. You don't have to weigh in on everything. Mostly like the things you're an expert on. Is it, well, for me at least. In other comment sections, you can do whatever you please. I mean, in this one, you can do whatever. I can't really stop you. I can, like, react, and sometimes people take reacting as, like, oh, so I'm not allowed to say that? No, you're allowed to. I'm allowed to be upset because I was gonna say because I felt dumber after I read it, but that's not what I meant in many ways, in so much as, and et ceteras, and you get the idea. Anyway. Marketing, it's just interesting to me, you know, because like I've always been a disbeliever in the power of advertising. Like as a kid, it's a little different, you know, like you're kind of, I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna disagree with this sentence. You're dumber as a kid than you are as an adult. You're supposed to be, at least. If you were smarter at like age 7 than you are at age 27, it might be time to examine, you know, the things you've done in your life that have led you to this, you know? See if we can get the train back onto the rails. But, you know, kids get affected by marketing. They see an ad for something and they go, whoa, I want to play that. I want to eat that cereal. It's got a freaking leprechaun, man. I want to eat that leprechaun's Lucky Charms, dude. Count Chocula's so cool, etc., etc. But as an adult, I'm always like, I'm not saying I'm built different on this one, by the way. This is a very good assortment of items. We might even end up taking Crack the Sky once we use this one more time, but do other people also feel like they kind of, and I know how this sounds. It does sound like I'm saying I'm built different. But that they kind of like aged out of marketing having an effect on them. There was definitely, you know, years of my life where I would, you know, read news that came out of E3 and be like, yo, did you see the trailer for that new Brute Force game, dude? It's gonna be even better than Halo. What do you mean, be skeptical? They said in the marketing material it's gonna be better than Halo. Are you saying the marketers are being misrepresentative? What agenda would that serve? Then, like, you just, like, 1 year, I realized that I would kind of, like, watch the press conferences and stuff like that. And I would be like, that looks good, or that looks bad, but I wouldn't feel that same kind of, like, visceral sort of pull that is like, I need to have this in my hands as soon as possible to experience it. And that's the way I've felt about, like consumer advertising for like a long time. Like I have never, unless there's some Inception level stuff going on here, I've never seen like a car company's advertisement and been like, you know, oh, I've got to buy a Mazda now. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I mean, obviously, like, it's a huge industry. Mostly the reason I like to see car commercials now is because I would say, at least in the Vancouver TV market, at least a third of the car advertisements are shot in Vancouver. So I get to watch the ads and be like, yo, I know that place. That's the Canby Bridge, baby. Hey, that's the Granville Bridge, baby. Oh, that's the Burrard Bridge. That's Gastown. That's Gastown, baby. Ew. Anyway. Nobody watching this lives in Gastown. And if you do, you know why I said ooh. It kind of smells sometimes. You're the ones who told me that. Anyway, for now, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. Again, by the way, we're streaming every day except Saturday, 11 to 4 p.m., 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific time at twitch.tv/Northernlion. So come check us out sometime. It's a lot of fun. But for now, I hope you enjoyed the YouTube video, and I'll see you next time. See ya!